Hello everyone, it is TooAwesome here with another video. Now, I know I'm really late to this, and I watched the show a little while ago, but I really wanted to review Japan Sinks, no matter how long it took for me to get around to it. But I finally have, so here is the Japan Sinks 2020 review. To start things off, Japan Sinks 2020 is a sci-fi action drama sporting 10 episodes released in July of 2020, directed by Masaaki Yuasa, the same director behind Devilman Crybaby. If you're familiar with that show, then you know about its unique art style, which it shares a lot in common with Japan Sinks. Not to mention, Devilman Crybaby was really good, and I want to get around to reviewing it eventually as well, but it just gives you a sense of the track record that this director has and what they are capable of. And to begin with, I saw it too. The beginning of Japan Sinks was so gripping and raw. Right off the bat, it showed you one of the most realistic takes on a natural disaster I have ever seen. The screams, imagery, and panic was all enough for me to set my hopes super high for this show. And well, it sort of delivered. At the beginning, I thought the show was amazing. It gripped me right away and was so grounded in reality that I could fully relate to these characters and their feelings of fear, worry, and sadness. But along the way, the show sometimes dipped into absurdity. I won't spoil anything, but I kind of wish that the show just stayed as a story about a family and some friends trying to survive this natural disaster, instead of a borderline Mission Impossible. It's not to say I didn't like some of the weirdness that came along their journey. Some of it I actually thought fit quite well, like the camp for instance, but others not so much, and even the camp was kind of pushing it at certain times. I feel like the story was too focused on being more than it had to be, because it could have been so great if it continued to focus on the small stories of these people. I don't want to give the wrong impression that I hated the story, however, because in reality, I don't. At times, I thought the story was quite great. I just think it went a little too far in certain areas. Thinking back to the beginning of the story, it had some of the best moments. These small, quiet moments of sticking together, comforting each other, and journeying along to safety were some of my favorites. I just wished it kept that sense of realism more, because that's where I feel the show truly shines. Now, I want to backtrack and talk about the art style because I love it. It's so minimalistic in a sense, but yet it can be so beautiful. And I wouldn't even call it minimalistic, it's just unique. I love the shading and the colors, the way the characters are drawn, I just liked it. It's a style I haven't seen all too much of except in Devilman Crybaby. I know it may not be everyone's favorite, but at least for me, I really liked it. And it wouldn't be a Yuasa project without some rapping. It happened in Devilman Crybaby and it happened here, and I absolutely love it. I think it's such a great touch and it's just so nice. Now, there was another thing that I had a slight issue with. I thought certain aspects were kind of repetitive and it took away from the shock factor that I'm guessing the show was going for. I'm not going to spoil anything, but when something happens for so many episodes in a row, you almost start to expect it. Not to mention, it also numbs the effect it would have had on you. But let's talk about where the show really shines, its emotional impact. You can make fun of me all you want, spam baby in the comments or whatever, but this show made me cry. Specifically towards the end. That's something that doesn't happen all too often. I feel like when a work like this makes you cry, it almost deserves a certain praise. It's one of the highest respects I can give a form of media. It's something that doesn't really happen all too much, so when it does, it's really special. The ending was heart-wrenching. It was a culmination of all the memories and build-up throughout the show, and I cried alongside our main character. I'm not spoiling anything, but I'm sure you'll at least feel something when you get there. And I mean, the ending wasn't the only emotional scene, far from it. The whole show is riddled with them, almost on an episodic basis. And the characters themselves portray such raw emotion. It's weird to say since they are animated, but you can see the overflowing grief a character portrays in a scene. It's almost overwhelming. In a sense, it feels so real. But it's not only the grief, but it's the joyful times as well. There is no dark if there is never light to contrast it. And that's one thing I feel like the show really nails. The contrast. You'll see heartwarming interactions even in light of the situations occurring. You may say that it's used as a distraction from reality, like one does for a child in light of an incident, or you may say that it's a pure interaction and they simply enjoy each other's company, for example. But no matter what, this contrast of emotions makes this show feel so special. It's almost inviting you along for the journey to share the experiences along with these characters. I said it best when writing notes right after I finished the show. It's a great show if you want to feel really good, then very bad. And I still stand by that. I guess I never did talk about what the story was about, and don't worry, there are going to be no spoilers. Basically, the main idea around the show is that there is an earthquake that hit Japan, and this earthquake is eventually going to make Japan sink, as the title implies. We follow this family of 4 along with some friends and extra people they meet along the way. It's a pretty standard story, but I thought it was really good, although I voiced some of my issues with it before. I don't really want to go too in-depth about the characters, however, because my interpretation of them might be different from other people's, because these characters, while not truly a capsule of humanity, they do have many nuanced elements about them, and I would rather not talk about the characters that we met along the way, since I thought it was fun to meet them during the journey and decipher their personalities and motives myself. But Japan Sinks, while having its issues, has many positives as well. It's an emotional roller coaster and an interesting adventure that kept me engaged throughout the entire show. Plus, it is only 10 episodes, so it shouldn't be all that big of a time commitment. It is a Netflix exclusive, but if you have the streaming site, I would recommend giving this one a watch. Japan Sinks 2020 gets an 8 out of 10. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. If you have any comments of your own, make sure to leave them down below. Trust me, I read them. Also, look at this graph. Okay, but as always, stay awesome, TooAwesome. Thanks for watching.